I am deeply 100% American and just so proud of what America stands for, as imperfect as we are, and how Asian Americans, Chinese Americans have contributed to the success of America. So I always say that, hey, what really makes America great is our diversity of people. You know, growing up, it was a very humble life. When we were in the Yesler Housing Project, my dad had his own restaurant in what is now the Pike Place Market, and then eventually opened up a grocery store. But we would do our homework in the kitchen in the back of the store. It was quite an experience growing up. I applied to a couple of California schools, obviously the University of Washington and Yale, and got accepted. And oh my gosh, just floored, just absolutely floored. It was hard finding my identity and finding myself at Yale during those early years. But I stuck it out because I knew how important it was for me to succeed, and I did not want to disappoint my parents. Government service is a noble calling, and trying to address the desires, the aspirations, the priorities of the people. My motto is do a few things really well as opposed to trying to do so many things in a mediocre fashion. I was getting involved in Asian American political organizations, advocating on behalf of affirmative action and preservation of the Chinatown International District from encroachment and gentrification, construction of low-income housing for the Chinese elderly, and then also just helping on other people's campaigns. And if I really care about the issues, I have an opportunity and a responsibility to be at the table helping set the policies that our political organization was concerned about and advocating for, so why not me? If I really wanted to help other Asian Americans, that I had to be the very best governor I could be, to raise the glass ceiling.
He is a trailblazer who has opened doors of opportunity for an entire generation of Asian Americans in politics. He's also a role model for what we should do in public service. All of us in government, including me, owe Gary our deepest appreciation.
Gary Locke is an American hero because he's committed to serving the people as he has throughout his entire career, whether it was being a Boy Scout or whether it was being in the House or governor, or when he went on to work in the federal government and serve as ambassador and as Commerce Secretary. And he's been committed to making sure those that are underserved are well served by government.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that I'm filling out my economic team with a man who shares that vision and who will play a key role in carrying it out as my Secretary of Commerce, Governor Gary Locke.
Joining the Obama administration was quite a story in and of itself. I never expected to be appointed. I go into the meeting with President-elect Obama and talk to him about U.S. Trade Rep, and I keep saying, but I think I can do a better job for you as Commerce Secretary, but I'm willing to serve any way you want and want to help you succeed. And he kept bringing it back to Trade Rep, and I kept trying to bring it back to Commerce Secretary. He says, God, you're a pretty good salesman.
I just remember that is like the best job ever for him because it was so geeky. There were data and Census and NOAA and all this stuff that he just completely thrived in. And so one time I visited his office and he was in the middle of this census and he said, hey, Roger, he's like, give me your phone. I said, why? He said, well, call your mom. And so I'm like, okay. So I dialed my mom and handed him the phone and he's like, and so he says, Phyllis, he said, this is the US Census calling. Have you filled out your census? And I could hear my mom like, what? I'll get right on that.
When I think about Gary Locke and what he stood for as governor, as ambassador, and now of course also as president of Bellevue College, is he stands for those fundamental values that define our country. Of freedom, of equality, of justice, of liberty.
In Beijing, the Chinese people had to wait 100 days just to get a visa interview. It's only a 5-10 minute interview, and people have to travel thousands of miles to the nearest consulate or the embassy for that interview. But it takes them 100 days to set up that interview. I said, that's costing America jobs. We got it down within a month and a half to 5 days. 2 months later, we got it down to 3 days. No new money, no new staff, no new facilities.
He's a real American hero in every sense of the phrase. a good man, a dedicated servant. He is exactly the type of hero I want my daughter to look up to.
Gary, congratulations on being this year's recipient of MOCA's Legacy Award, an award you certainly deserve. We're proud you're a Seattleite and also a distinguished leader of the state of Washington, the other Washington. Congratulations, Gary, and enjoy the evening.
At the end of the day, in politics, do you remember everything? And you receive 100 plaques and awards. You look back at them 5-10 years later. Which is more important? Seeing your daughter at her first piano recital or your son's first t-ball game and the smile on his face when he hits a ball versus looking at a plaque. It's all about family. I mean, and at the end, it's going to be the family that supports you and that hugs you and that you can hold on to. It's those family memories. That's perhaps the biggest accomplishment and the most important task that anybody has.